In today's session, we'll see purchase returns. To test this purchase returns functionality, we'll go and create relevant transaction flow. First, we'll create one purchase order, create PO. With 100 quantity, and we'll create receipt with the same quantity. We'll create the invoice and the payables with 100 quantity. Okay, invoice in AP 100 quantity. So we have a unit price as $100. Price is $100. The PO amount will be $10,000. When you create invoice, since we are going to create with 100 quantity, the invoice amount also would be $10,000. So after completing this process, if you want to return some quantity because of damage or any other issues, if you want to return some quantity to the supplier, we'll perform the purchase returns. Create purchase returns. If you create the purchase return, say for 10 quantity, okay, if you perform the purchase returns for 10 quantity, since unit price is $100, the amount wise it has to reduce 1000 from this AP invoice. When you perform the purchase returns, automatically if you want to create the debit memo against the AP invoice, if you want to reduce, when you return the 10 quantity, we have to reduce the equivalent amount from the AP invoice. If you want to create the debit memo automatically, yes, you can do that, or else manually you can create the debit memo and you can reduce the amount from this AP invoice, and remaining amount we can pay to the supplier. So when you create the purchase returns in the inventory application, system creates debit memo against the same quantity related amounts. System creates debit memo in AB. If it is 10 quantity, unit price is 1000, it will create debit memo with minus. When you say debit memo, it's a negative sign, minus $1000. Then we can select this invoice and this debit memo. When you select this invoice and this debit memo, we have to pay only 9,000 to supplier. We'll make the payment. We'll see this. First, we'll create the purchase order with 100 quantity. If you want to create the requisition, yes, you can create requisition. You can convert it to PO. Already we tested how to create the requisition. We created automatically based on the minimax plan, and we created through manual process also. Now we'll create PO directly. Go to procurement section. Under procurement, click on purchase orders. Go to task list. Click on create order. We want to create the purchase order against which supplier. Max INC. Select default ship to location for this supplier. Sorry, this is our location where this supplier has to ship the material. Max dollars. Say create. Go to lines. Under lines, click on add. And one more point here. If you want to create the debit memo automatically in the payables against the purchase returns, yes, we can do that. If you want to create through manual process, yes, through manual process also you can create the debit memo. But if you want to create automatically whenever you perform the purchase returns, supplier level, we have to set one option. We'll go and set that option. After setting that option, we will create the purchase order so that that option would be applicable. Automatically, system will identify against this PO if any purchase returns. System has to create the debit memo automatically. That's what system will understand. Against the PO means we'll have a PO. Against the PO, whatever the receipt you create, against the receipt any purchase returns are performed, automatically system will create the debit memo. If you want to create the debit memo automatically whenever you perform the purchase returns, you have to do one setup at supplier level. Go to suppliers. Under procurement, click on suppliers. Go to task list. Click on manage suppliers. Supplier name is Max INC. Click on search. Click on edit. So go to sites. Click on edit. Go to purchasing section. Under purchasing, here we have one checkbox called as create debit memo from returns. Enable the checkbox. Okay, create debit memo from returns. That means automatically create debit memo from returns. This checkbox we have to enable. Make a note when you are practicing, you can use it. Better you can take this here as a setup part. When you perform the purchase returns to create the debit memo automatically, you have to enable the checkbox called as create debit memo from returns. Enable create debit memo from returns at supplier side. Okay, this checkbox we have to enable at supplier site level. If you enable, system will create the debit memo automatically whenever you perform the purchase returns. If you don't enable, you have to create the debit memo and the payables through manual process to reduce amount as per the returns against this invoice. Done. Now we'll proceed with this process. Enable the checkbox, say save and close. Say save and close. Click on done. We'll go and create the purchase order. Go to procurement section. Click on purchase orders. Go to task list. Create order. Click on create order. Supplier name is Max INC. Default ship to location is Max dollars. This supplier has to ship the material to this location. So create. Go to lines, click on create line. Select item. Item code starts with Max. Item description is MacBook. We created only one item. System will fetch that item. If you have multiple items, you have to select. Only one item, system selected. So here you can give the quantity. What is the quantity we planned? 100 quantity. 100 quantity. Unit price is $100. So it is total amount is order amount is $10,000. So requested delivery date is tomorrow's date. Destination type is inventory, not expense. And now you want to create invoice in the tables application with the receipt matching. That means PO and receipt we will match with invoice creation. And other information I think is mandatory. Now you can click on save. Click on save. After saving this purchase order, you can submit this purchase order for approvals. Already we have approval set up. We have a approval rule to approve every purchase order automatically, right? Click on submit. A document called as purchase order 1006 was submitted for approval. Say OK. Now check the PO status. Click on manage orders. Order number is 1006. Click on search. Status is pending approval. You have to wait for some time to see the actual status. It will be approved and it will show the status as open, which is equal to approved. Status is open. That means this PO is approved. So we placed order to supplier. Say we received material from the supplier, the same quantity we received. To record the same in the system, let's create the receipt. Go to inventory management, which is under supply chain execution. Click on inventory management. Click on task list. Select receipts. So before you navigate to the receipts, from here also you can see receipt lines. Awaiting receipt, receiving. Click on receive expected shipments. You received the material against which PO. Give the PO number 1006. Click on search. So we received material against this PO. Select that receipt PO. Click on receive. So how much quantity we receive? Click on view details. Just click on view details. Wait for a second. Basically it has to fetch those details. Let's click on once again view details. Ideally, that should default the PO quantity here. Then we can accept or we can change. Anyway, we know that we received 100 quantity. So create receipt. You want to provide these details and all, you can enter, or else you can say submit. Our destination type is receiving. We are taken into staging. The receipt number is 4. Now we'll create the put away receipt to move the material from receiving point to sub inventory. Go to task list, click on put away receipts. What is the receipt number? 4. Click on search, select receipt, click on put away. As per this receipt, we have 100 quantity within the receiving area. Received 100 quantity. How much quantity you are going to move from receiving point to sub inventory, that you can provide here. If you are moving a total quantity, yes, you can accept the same. If you have 100 quantity within the receiving, you want to move only 50 quantity into targeted sub inventory, that you can specify here. You want to move the material into which sub inventory? Say sub inventory 1. Click on submit. Say OK. Done. Created receipt. We received material into sub inventory 1. Now we'll go and create invoice against PO on receipt. Switch to payables. The payables, we have a task called as invoices. Click on invoices task and click on task list. Say create invoice. Select PO number 1006. Select PO. System will default BU supplier information based on the PO, and you can provide the invoice number. So INV11 and invoice amount. We received invoice from the supplier with how much amount? Say 10,000. Now click on go. Here line option is selected as a match invoice lines. Click on go. It will fetch the PO and against the PO what are the receipts we created. So this is the PO number against the PO. On the receipt we created, receipt number is 4. Order quantity is 100 and received quantity is 100. So based on received quantity, the matching will take place. Say we are creating invoice with 100 quantity, and this is the price which the supplier is given. That you can update here. Say apply. Click on OK. Now validate this invoice. This is a very standard process, right? We create PO, we create receipt, we'll match and we'll create invoice. So based on the due date, we'll make the payment for this invoice. For this invoice, okay, the due date will be today only, because payment terms are immediate. Immediate means today itself we have to pay. You want to see the due date, click on validate. You can see the due date for this invoice. Today we have to pay. So based on due date, you can make the payment. Now the case is, we want to return 10 quantity against the same receipt. We received 100 quantity, 10 quantity got damaged. We want to return that quantity back to the supplier. At supplier level, we enabled on checkbox called as create debit memo from returns. So when you enable the checkbox, the moment you perform the purchase returns with the same quantity related price, with the same quantity, it will create the debit memo in the payables to reduce the amount from the invoice which is created against that receipt itself. We'll go and see that. We'll perform the purchase returns. Say save and close. Go to inventory management. Go to task list. Under receipts, you can see the task called as return receipts. Click on return receipts. Receipt number is 4. Click on search. So with the receipt number 4, we received 100 quantity. Now we are going to return partial quantity from this receipt. So select the same record, click on return. So we are going to return the quantity to supplier. If you want to return the quantity from your sub-inventory to the receiving area, you can select receiving. But now we are going to return to supplier. Correct? Return to as a supplier by default, system will default that you can accept. Now how much quantity? The received recorded quantity is $100. 100 quantity. How much you want to return? 10 quantity only. Okay, here the debit memo checkbox is enabled for this supplier. Okay, Max INC supplier, what is the site we have? Against the site, we enable the checkbox called as create debit memo from returns. Because of that checkbox, here system is enabling the debit memo checkbox. If we disable this checkbox, we can perform the returns, but system won't create debit memo in the payables automatically with a return quantity. The quantity is 10. It will take the price from the PO. It will create invoice in the payables. No need to disable it. If it is enabled, system will create debit memo automatically. Fine. Say submit. Now 10,000 quantity will be reduced from inventory. And with this return, automatically system will create the debit memo in the payables. Now you can go to payables. Go to invoices. And here click on last 24 hours. There are 4 invoices which are created. One is incomplete invoice. Click on that. So there is a debit memo invoice. It created 41001. The 4 is nothing but receipt number. Against which receipt, when you perform the purchase returns, this invoice will created. That system will include in the invoice number itself. Click on invoice number. Okay, the type is debit memo. So description is generated automatically by a return to supplier. You can say RTS also. RTS, return to supplier transaction. Okay, or you can call as RTV, return to vendor. Anything, any naming convention you can use. RTV, return to supplier, or RTS, RTV, return to vendor, RTS, return to supplier. So it is a description how this debit memo is created. Since we're given 10 quantity, with the 10 quantity unit price is $100, so total amount is 1,000. Because this is a debit memo, this amount need to be reduced from the invoice transaction. It is creating minus 1,000. The same it will create in the line level also. And description is MacBook. Okay, this is how it will copy the item information. We cannot enter here item details. So this is how system is creating. Now you can submit this invoice for validation. Validated. Now when we are making the payment to supplier, by reducing this $1,000 from the 10,000, we have to make the payment. We'll complete that task also. Go to payment workbench. Go to navigator. Select payments. Click on payments. Go to task list. So create payment. So you want to process the payments from which business unit? Max US business unit. You are going to make the payment to which supplier? It's not selecting, 1 second. Okay, we selected business unit and supplier. Now select bank account, max corporate account. Select payment process profile. We create it as a max payment process profile. Select payment document as a check. Right. Now by using this check number, you want to process the payment to which invoice? You want to process the payment for invoice INV11. Select that invoice. So this is the invoice INV11. Select and say apply. And the invoice we created against the receipt number 4. That from that receipt we returned 10 quantity. For that system created debit memo. So we have to select to manual process only. If you don't select, system will allow us to process 10,000. The payables we have one concept called as payment process request. If you submit that payment process request, automatically system will select this invoice as well as debit memo. In that case, we don't need to select anything manually. Since we are processing the payments through manual process, we have to select the debit memo also. We can automate the payments process and the payables. In that case, we don't need to select anything. If any debit or any other memos are available, system will select. Now, along with the invoice, whatever the debit memo system created against the purchase returns, that also we are selecting. Now, system is reducing that amount. We have to pay only 9,000 to supply. So save and close. So this is how you can handle the purchase returns from the inventory side to payables. We'll test pay and receipt concept. What does it mean by pay and receipt? When we receive the material from the supplier, when we receive the material from the supplier, we'll create the receipt. If you see the case, supplier is taking time to send the invoice. Instead of waiting to receive that invoice, based on the receipt, you can create invoice in the payables application. That means the moment you create the receipt, based on the receipt, if you want to create the invoice, based on the received quantity, based on the received quantity, if you want to create invoice in the payables automatically, without creating the invoice through matching process, we can use the concept called as pay and receipt. With the pay and receipt, this simply you can call this pay and receipt or ERS also. ERS stands for Evaluated Receipt Settlement. This is a source name system will use to create the invoice and the payables based on the receipt. In other words, we can say bills payables, self-billing also. Self-billing means we don't wait for to receive the bill from the supplier. Once you receive the material, we'll create the receipt and we'll create the invoice also in the payables application. That you can call as self-billing. You can call with this any name. Ultimately, what we are trying to do is we are going to create the invoice automatically in the payables. We can call it automatic invoice creation in AP. By using the pay and receipt, we can create the invoice and the payables automatically based on the receipt information. The moment you create the receipt, system will allow us to create the invoice and the payables application by running the process. We'll go and see that. Fine, to test this functionality, first we have to set the pay and receipt at supplier site level. Set pay and receipt option at supplier site. For which supplier site related PO related in receipt, PO related receipts, you want to create invoice in the payables that you have to set. After setting that option, to test this functionality, we'll create the PO. We'll create purchase order. With any quantity. Let's take, we'll create PO with 10 quantities. After creating the purchase order, we'll create the receipt against the PO. Create receipt also with the same quantity. After creating the receipt, based on the receipt, you can create the invoice in the payables application. In case of EBS, the moment you create the receipt, automatically system would trigger the process to create invoice in the payables. But in the Fusion, we have to run the manual process. When you run the process, it will create the invoice in the payables on based on selected receipt or all receipts which are eligible to create the invoices with this concept. Okay, so run. There will be job called as send pay on receipt. We have to run this process. That system will create invoice in the payables. System creates invoice in AP with a 10 quantity. I said 10 quantity, unit price is $100. That means it will create invoice with $1,000. That's all. That's how you can automate the invoice creation, the payables based on the receipt information. Okay, we'll go and see now. First, we have to set pay on receipt at supplier site level. Go to supplier. Click on suppliers. Go to task list. Click on manage suppliers. Our supplier name is Max INC. Click on edit. Go to sites. Click on edit. Go to purchasing tab. Under purchasing, if you scroll little down, you can find the section called as self billing. And prior to that, we have a pay on receipt. Here we have a pay on receipt. Enable the checkbox so that this self billing section will be enabled. An invoice summary level. Invoices you want to create based on what? You can say based on pay site. Okay, what are the site we have? Site wise, it has to create the invoices. That's how it has to summarize invoice creation. So enable this pay on receipt and select invoice summary level as pay site, or else you can select receipt so that receipt wise it will create. How many receipts you have for each receipt it will create, or else pay site wise it will summarize and it will create the invoices. Set this information, say save and close. Now against this site, if you create any PO, and against the PO, if you create receipt, automatically system can create invoice in the payables if you run the process. That's all. Now we'll create the purchase order. Go to procurement section and click on purchase orders. Click on task list. So create order. Supplier name is Max INC. Default ship to is Max dollars. Say create. Okay, instead of selecting the default ship to all the time, supplier level you can give the default ship to location, then system will default whenever you create the purchase order. We didn't provide default ship to location, so it is not taken. Fine. Now if you look at this PO, your system is showing the checkbox pay on receipt is enabled. This supplier site level, we enable pay on receipt, so that is applicable for this PO also. Now with this PO, if you create any receipt automatically system can create the invoice in the payables. If you don't want to apply the rule, you can disable the checkbox. Against this PO, if you create the receipt, system won't create invoice in the payables. We given at site level, that is defaulting. Accept it. Anyway, that's how we are going to create. Now go to lines, click on create. Select item. Directly you can type here max. Select and quantity 10 quantity. Requested delivery date is we requested to deliver by tomorrow. Okay. Now here which options you are selecting doesn't matter. The reason we are not going to create invoice through matching. The moment you create the receipt, system will create the invoice. It could be anything. Okay. Since we are not going to create invoice through matching, you don't need to worry about these options. Save it and wait for approval. Please go on mute. Somebody is unmuted. So we submitted this document for approval. The document number is 1007. We'll go and check the status of this document. Under orders, click on manage orders. 1007. The status is pending approval. It takes some time to update the status. It's updated. Status is open. Now we'll go on to receive the material into staging first, from staging to targeted sub inventory. Go to inventory management. Select task list. Select receipts. Click on receive expected shipments. We are going to receive the material against which PO. PO number is 1007. Click on search. Select. Click on receive. So how much quantity we are receiving? 10 quantity. We receive 10 quantity. We placed the order also for 10 quantity only. So create receipt. Submit. The receipt number is 5. Say OK. Now we will move that same quantity from receiving point to sub inventory. Click on put away receipts. The receipt number is 5. Click on search. Select the receipt record and say put away. So how much quantity we are receiving? 10 quantity. Submit. Specify sub inventory. When you are taking into destination tab as inventory, sub inventory is mandatory. Submit. Say OK. Done. Okay, we created receipt and we taken the material into inventory. Now what are the receipt we created that we created against the PO? The PO level pay and receipt checkbox is enabled. That means against the receipt you can create the invoice and the payables automatically. You can see that. Go to schedule process. Click on schedule new process. Search for send Pay on receipt. Say OK. Transaction source. For pay on receipts, by default, system will use the source called as evaluated receipt settlement (ERS). Okay. If you want to provide the receipt number, you can provide the receipt number. The receipt number is we have as a 5. This is our inventory, receipt number 5, and say submit. Refresh. Status is succeeded. Now you can go to find the invoice in the payables application. Go to invoices. Click on manage invoices. So invoice system will create with us. Invoice number starts with ERS. Okay. Search with ERS. It created invoice number as ERS. Okay. Oh, it's a different one. One second. We'll go and run the process again. Schedule processes. Send pay on receipt. Say OK. You can give the number as 5. Receipt number is 5. This aging and all these are not required. Submit. You can see it is getting the job called as import payable invoice. Click on refresh. So now you can go to this report. Okay. And you can select this report and you can go to output. That's how you can verify the information from here also. If not required, we can find the invoice directly. Go to invoices. Here it is updating. One incomplete invoice is there. Click on that. That is nothing but ERS one. Okay. Here it is not taking as ERS. Ideally, it has to take the number as ERS. There is one profile option also. Okay. We can set what should be the prefix for invoice number. Seems to in this instance somebody set prefix as A01. So that's what it is taking as A01. But by default, it takes ERS. Click on this invoice number. Okay, it is showing the description. The receipt invoice so and so has been created on so and so date. So $1,000 item is MacBook. Okay, Here you can see the PO number is 1007. Against this 1007 PO only, we created receipt file, right? So that's how this is created. You can validate. So this is how you can create invoice. The one option is you can create invoice in the payables through matching with the PO or PO receipt. The other option is you can create invoices directly in the payables also without matching, but all 99% invoices will be created through matching only. And the other option we have is you can, without creating invoice through matching or manual process in the payables, you can auto create the invoices in the payables based on the receipt information. This invoice is created automatically. We didn't even perform the matching. So this is how you can create the invoices in the payables. Right, that's all about QP cycle to understand. Yeah.
So here, so do we have any program to run that validation process, invoice validation process? So
yeah,
here you are doing automatic.
You can run the process. Yeah. All the invoices will get validated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is automated, right? Yeah, we need to do the validation.
Your voice is not clear.
Oh, sorry. One second. Right. So PayOnReceipt is automated process. So we need to schedule a program for validation also, right?
No, it's not mandatory how to schedule. If you want to schedule, you can schedule, or else whenever you want to run, you can run, so that all unvalidated invoices will be validated if information is fine. Okay.
Okay.
Tables invoice validation. There is one job that you can submit. So validate payables invoices.
Okay.
If you run this job, all the invoices, whatever you have, all system will submit for validation. If information is fine with those invoices, the system will validate automatically instead of submitting each invoice for validation. Yep. You can submit. Invoices which are belongs to this business unit, all will be submitted for validation. You don't need to submit manually for one by one invoice. That's it. Or else you can schedule it. If you want to schedule, yes, this you can schedule. Any job which you are submitting, you can schedule. If you want to schedule, schedule process, say okay. And in stock, you can just provide these parameters. And instead of clicking on submit, go to advanced tab and go to schedule. And here by default, as soon as possible, if you want to schedule, select use a schedule. How often system has to run this job? Hourly base, every 1 hour, not every 1 hour, maybe every 10 minutes. This is how you can set. You can submit this. That's our system. Every 10 minutes once, system will run this process. If any unvalidated invoice are available, it will validate. That's all. Fine. Yeah. And we have other concept where we'll create invoices with a four-way matching also. So far we tested two-way matching. Two-way matching means invoice creation based on the PO. Three-way matching means invoice creation based on the PO and receipt. And four-way matching means we'll create invoice based on the PO, receipt, and accepted quantity. When we talk about inspection, accepted quantity will come into the picture. So once we test that inspection and all, we'll create invoice with a four-way matching also. Done. So as a part of purchasing application, we have seen how to create the requisitions and purchase orders. Let's focus on approvals. We may require 2 sessions, at least 2 or 3. We'll see that based on when we will, whatever we have to understand, we'll cover all those things. Maybe 2 sessions required. We'll understand the approvals. Once we understand the approvals, how to set the approvals for requisition, purchase order, or any other document types. So then we will proceed with the different concepts, whatever we have in the purchasing application. Okay. So along with the purchasing, we will test Minimax planning also. We tested the Minimax plan with a source type as supplier as well as sub-inventory only. So organization based also we have to test. Along with the purchasing application, we'll work on that Minimax plan. If you want to implement the Minimax plan from order management also, we have to complete the few setups. So before we complete the purchasing application, we'll complete that concept also. After completing purchasing, we'll proceed with the order management. Yep, fine. So we created a rule called as auto approvals for requisition as well as purchase orders. Now what we will do is we will test approval group based approvals. Okay, we can create the approval group. In each group you can group one or multiple users or employees, and you can apply the same rule for all the people to approve the purchase orders or requisitions. We'll see that. So we'll take purchase requisition. Take purchase order. Okay, for these two documents, we will go and set the approvals. We have agreements also, we'll discuss. Once we understand these, okay, we'll go with those options also. So purchase requisition, purchase orders. Now I'll go and create the simple rules to approve these purchase orders and purchase requisitions and purchase orders. We'll create the rule saying that if purchase requisition amount is, you can say purchase requisition amount is same or less than $100, that can be approved by, let's say, approver. Approver is max. So if purchase requisition amount is same or less than $100, that requisition can be approved by max user or say max employee. The same rule will create for purchase order also. And we'll create another rule. We'll write it. If purchase requisition here amount, if the purchase requisition amount is more than $100, for that you want to make approver as max 1. We don't have user called as max 1, we will create to test this functionality. The same will apply for purchase orders also. Okay, if PO amount is more than $100, that purchase orders can be approved by only max 1. We'll create it. Now, since we are going to use directly, you can give this rule and you can specify the approver is so and so, or else you can tell to the system the people or say users or employees by taking into approval group. We'll go with approval group. Later we'll be testing the different scenarios. So now what we'll do is we'll create two approval groups. Approval group In one approval group, let's say approval group, in one approval group will take the max. Okay, we'll create approval group. In the approval group, we'll take the person as max, and we'll create the rule, or else I'll give the approval group as 1. We'll create one approval group. The approval group name is approval group 1. Into that approval group, I select user called as max. Then we'll create the rule: if purchase requisition amount is same or less than $100, the approver is max. Instead of giving this directly, so that requisitions can be approved by the people who are part of this approval group. The same way for this condition, we'll create one more approval group. In that we'll take max 1. The same approval groups we can use for purchase order also. And if you want to write the rule, if purchase requisition amount is same or less than $100, approvers are max as well as max ABC. You want to allow these two users to approve the requisitions if purchase requisition amount is same or less than $100. In that case, these two users we have to select into approval group 1. With the approval group only we can do this mapping. Okay. So now for now we'll select only one user. You can select multiple users also to this approval group, so that this can be approved by any one of the user who are part of this. Can be any one of the user or all users also, that we can specify when we are creating the rule. We'll discuss on that. But now we'll go with this option. Fine. Now we'll go and create the rules. Okay, we'll go and create the rules for requisition. We'll create this rule, these two rules, and purchase order also. These two rules will create. So before we go and create these two rules, we'll create these two approval groups. So we can create the first approval group because we have this user, but we don't have user called as max1. So first we'll create the user called as max1 so that we can create two approval groups.
Actually, this approval group 1 and supposed to be approval group 2, no? Both were mentioned 1 only.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yes, this should be 2. Correct. Just forgot to change that number. Two approval groups we are going to create, approval group 1 and approval group 2. First we'll create the user called as max1. Test this scenario. So go to security console. When you do these approvals with approval group, the user can be implementation user. Still you can just route the notifications for approvals. If you are going to test employee supervisory approval hierarchy approvals, every user should be employee user. Go to security console. Select users. Click on add user account. Give the username as max1. System is overriding the username with the email ID. Change it. We no need to assign any roles to max1. Here, if any purchase requisition amount or purchase order amount is more than $100, the approval notification will go to max1. If you have access to max1 user, you can log in and you can approve it. No rules required for max1 to approve the requisitions or purchase orders. Just create the user. That's more than enough. Say save and close. The next step is we'll create two approval groups. Go to project, or from the search page also you can create. Let's create from the project. Go to task list, click on, let's proceed with the project. Go to task list, click on manage implementation projects, open the project. Search for the task called as approval groups. Task name is approval groups. Click on manage approval groups. Click on go to task icon. Fine. We are in the approval group creation page. Your system selected approval groups. To create the approval group, click on create. You can give the approval group name. We'll give the name with the prefix as max. Give max. Instead of writing as approval group, I'll write as approval group AZ. Approval group 1. Okay. So you can group the people into this approval group. You can select multiple employees or users into this group. How to add? Here we have a add member function. Click on add members. So I want to select Max into this approval group. Say OK. If you want to select one more user, you can select same option. You can click on. We'll be testing that. We have a parallel, serial, different approvals concepts. At that time, we'll be adding additional users also into that. The user should be added before or after. This all we'll discuss. For now, just we are taking only one user into this approval group. Click on save. Let's create one more approval group. Click on create. Give the name as Max AZ2. Approval group 2. Click on add the username. You can search and select, otherwise you can enter the username here. If the user really exists in the system, it will accept when you say OK. Once those users are available, it is accepting. Otherwise, when you say OK, it says user is not exist. Click on save. We created two approval groups. Now we'll go and create the rules. Okay, now we'll go and create these rules. So go to manage requisition approvals. By using the same task, we created auto approvals, right? Click on this manage requisition approvals task. And this is the rule we created in the last session to set auto approvals for our business unit. Okay, for now we'll use the same node. Okay, this is the node we call. In the next session, we will discuss about all this. Okay, for now we'll just understand how to create those by using the same node. By next session, we'll just come to know all these, what is the difference between the different stages and routing, voting, etc. So the same node we used earlier to set auto approvals. Let's go to the same node. Select the node, click on edit rule. Okay, here this is the rule which we created. It is active role. What condition we given? If requisition B is equal to max US, system has to approve automatically. Now we don't want that. Disable this rule. Now we want to go with a separate condition. Let's create the new rule. Click on create. So what we want to create? The purchase requisition amount is same or less than $100. That's the rule. You can just write the same here. We are in the purchase requisition workflow only. Again, you don't need to write as a purchase requisition. Simply you can say same or less than $100. The purchase requisition amount is same or less than $100. Who can approve? That's what we are going to set the rule. Say OK. Okay, this is what we are creating. Click on add condition. Here select attribute as a requisition amount. So requisition amount parameter we are selecting. That means if requisition amount value is equal to 100, say OK. Okay, what condition we given? If requisition amount
should be less than equal to.
Sorry, I take equal. It's different. I click on edit. We discussed as same or less than. Fine. Here not equals. So select same or less than. Same or less than means less than or equal to. Okay. So we discussed as same or less than, but here that expression they given as a less than or equal to. That means same or less than. Same means equals to or less than. This is what we apply. Okay, less than or equal to $100. Could be same. It could be equal to $100 or less than $100. Say OK. Now click on add action. So in the add action, you can specify the people who are part of approved group, they can approve. That's what we want to set. So here, action type, you can select approval required. Earlier we tested automatic. Now you can go with the approvals required, and the routing using approved group. Based on approved group, you want to approve those requisitions based on the condition. Other than approval group, these are the other options also we have. We'll look into those also. So approval group we have here. Now what is the approval group name we created? That is the max approval group 1. Okay, max approval group. The max AZ1, within that we have a user called as max user. Say OK. Now if requisition amount is same or less than $100, that those requisitions can be approved by people who are part of this approved group. In this approved group, we have only one user, that is max. That's all. And we have one more rule for requisitions. If requisition amount is more than $100, okay, this person has to approve. So this person we selected in the approved group too, right? Let's create that rule also. Click on create. Say more than. Here expression would be greater than, but you can write it as a more than $100. Say OK and add condition. So attribute you can say requisition amount. If requisition amount is operator is, you can select greater than. That means more than $100. Say OK. If requisition amount is greater than, that means more than $100, who can approve? Add action. Select approve routing as approved group only. Select our approved group. Max AZ2. People who are part of this approved group 2, they can approve those requisitions if requisition amount is more than $100. So this is how you can create. We selected only one condition here. If this condition should be applicable only for our business unit, here we can add one more condition. We can add our BU also. It will work as the requisition amount should be greater than 100 plus the requisitions belongs to our BU max US business unit. Then only that can be approved by this approved group people. That also you can set. We'll be testing. Okay. Still we have to test different scenarios. When you're testing the different scenarios, we'll add additional conditions also. Here we given only one condition without specifying any BU. Done. Now click on save and close and submit for deployment. Submit for deployment. Say OK. Now click on done. Right. Now we completed the rule definition for purchase requisition. Now we'll create the rule for purchase order. Go to task called as manage purchase document approvals. Click on go to task icon. And the same node we used to set auto approvals also, we can proceed with the same. Later we'll discuss other nodes and purposes, how those are similar or different. Okay, this node is already enabled. Click on edit rule. We have few rules here. Okay. Now what we can do is we'll go and disable those rules. Okay, we'll just go and do disable those rules. Or else if those rules are specific to BUs, we can keep that as it is, and in that case for our BU we have to set the rule. So let's disable all this, because if we are setting the rule for specific to our BU, then that is fine, but we are not going to set the rule which is specific to our BU. We are setting the common rule. Okay, so that is better. You can disable all this, or else when you are creating the rule you can give the BU name, BU specification also, then that would be fine. Okay, or else you can keep all this as it is and you can create another rule. Anything you can do. Let's disable. So select this, say disable, select and disable, select and disable. The rule which you are creating, if it is not going to conflict existing rules, that's fine. Select. Click on disable. Disable all the rules. Let's create new rule. I'll say same or less than $100. Say OK. Click on add condition. This rule will be applicable for purchase order. Okay, here select attribute as a document type. Yeah, we want to see as a purchase order. You can select document amount. Document header. Distribution. Or you can set based on the type of document also. That is also you can do. Purchase. Document only, the title. Yeah, this you can select. Document ordered amount. So what is the condition? Same or less than. It's nothing but less than or equal to. How much amount? 100. Say OK. If amount is same or less than $100, who can approve? Select approve group here. The people who are part of this, they can approve. Only max we have inside of this. Let's create one more rule with more than $100. Click on OK and add condition. So document ordered amount. Operator is greater than $100. That means more than $100. Who can approve? But you can just click on add action. And who can approve? Max approve group 2. Who are part of this approve group 2, they can approve. Within this we have max 1. Save OK. So we created 2 rules. So save and close. Submit for deployment. Okay, done. We are ready with these rules. Now what we'll do is we'll go and create one requisition with less than $100. 100 or less than $100, that will be routed to approved group people who are part of this approved group 1. We have only max, that would be routed for max to approve. So go to requisitions, click on purchase requisitions. Click on more tasks, select enter requisition line. Wait for a second, it is taking time. So item is max 1001. That is item number. Item called as MacBook. Select item. So this is the item number. Item description is MacBook. And quantity is 1. Okay. You can change the price to what we given 100. Anything you can accept. You can take 100 or else make price as a 50 only. It can be 50 or 100. That would be routed to approved group 1 related people. Okay. We given all these details. Say add to cart. You create the requisitions, it is taking time. Let's wait. It is added to cart. Click on the line which is available in the cart. Click on review. Fine. So if you submit this requisition for approval, it would be approved by whom if you want to understand. Click on manage approvals. Click on manage approvals. As per approval rules, write approver to approve this requisition, that information system will show before you go and submit. Just click on manage approvals. It will show who is the approver, and if any hierarchy is there, who are going to approve one after other, that information also shows. As per our rule, this will be approved by max only. That's how we written the rule. If in PO purchase requisition amount is same or less than 100, it should be approved by approve group 1. Within the approve group 1, we selected a user called as max user. So it will show the same information. Showing will be approved max. That's how we written the approval rule. Click on back, submit for approval. Say okay. You can go to manage requisitions. So just now we submitted, what is the requisition number? I think maybe 1003. This is the one, right? Yes. This is the requisition which we submitted just now. Pending approval 1003. So we'll go to notifications. This is the different. Even this user will get the notification also on the same. Yeah. Action required to approve the requisition 1003. This user got a notification. Now this user has to approve or reject. If this user want to see these details, you can click on this name, a title, and it shows the requisition information. Wait for a second, it will load all the details. $50. Okay. So this is how you can see all those details. Approval hierarchies assigned to max and submitted by max only, and approve. This action need to be performed by this user. So when before approving, you can write some comments here. You can just add any files if you want to attach related to that document, etc. You can do that. Say submit. Now you can refresh this requisition. Since the right approver is approved, you can see the status as approved. Now we'll create the requisition with more than $100. We have a second rule where that notification should go to max one user. Create requisition, go to purchase requisitions. Go to more tasks, click on enter requisition lines. Select item. Select item. So let's make price as $500. Okay. So add to cart. If requisition amount is more than $100, that can be approved by user called as max one. That's what we selected user into approval group. The same approval group is selected in the rule called as amount is purchase request amount is more than $100 rule. Now click on the cart line, click on review. Before submitting for approval, if you want to check if this requisition is submitted for approval, goes to whom for approval. Click on manage approvals. It shows the right approval information as per approval rule. If you submit this requisition for approval, it goes to max 1. You can submit from here also. Submitting. Submitted. Requisition number is 1004. Now this notification will go to max 1 user. Log into the application as a max 1 user. Sign out from the current user. Say confirm. Max 1. So this user will get the notification here. The notification triggered. So action required. The max 1 user received notification. The action required approve requisition 1004. Click on that notification. This max 1 can see the requisition details which is submitted by max user. Okay. Here you can see approval hierarchy. It's assigned to this and submitted by max. If you want to see the same document, you can click on this PDF requisition details file, it will show. Okay, so the max 1 is approving it. Submit. Okay, it's submitted and approved. Right, done. Now you can log in as a max user. The max user also will get the notification as that requisition is approved by max 1. And if you verify the requisition, you can see as it is approved. Check the notifications. For your information, notification requisition 1004 is approved. Okay, so it's approved by whom? Max 1. If you click on that, you can see those details. Now directly we will go and check the requisition. Go to purchase requisitions. Go to manage requisitions task. Requisition number is 1004. Created with $500. $500, it's approved. Okay, done. The similar rules we created for purchase order also. We'll go and create the PO. PO you can create through manual process or you can auto create. Process requisitions. So let's convert requisition 1003 to create as a PO. 1003 is $50. This can be approved by max only. That's why we have a rule. Okay, select 1003 with $50. Click on add to document builder. I want to create this purchase order against which supplier. Max INC. Say okay. If you want to edit these details, you can edit or else say create. The document number is 1008. Now this user can submit for approval. If you want to check, you can click on manage approvals also. So it is submitted. Now this user will get a notification to approve this purchase. Okay, we'll wait for some time. Let's refresh this page. Click on more details. Still it is not updated. We'll wait. We'll just sign out and sign in. Sometimes it takes time to show the notification. Now here you can see the notification is showing as number 14. That means it's updated. Action is required to approve the purchase order 1008. This max user has an approve limit up to $100. So you can say approve. So go and check the status of the purchase order. Go to manage orders. Order number is 1008, right? $50. Status is open. That means it is approved. So we'll create one more PO with more than $100. Go to process requisitions. So we'll create the PO against this requisition, which is approved already. Select it is with $5,000, $500. Click on add document builder. Select supplier. Say OK. Say create. The document number is 1009. If you want to verify who can approve, you can click on manage approvals. We know who is going to be the approver. Directly we can click on submit. Say OK. Now you can log in as a max one, because max one user will get this notification because the amount is more than $100. Sign out from this user. Log in as a max one. Your notification is showing. Just click on that notification. Action required to approve purchase order 1009. So see the details, you click on that title or directly say approve. Here for our testing purpose, we use the same approved group for requisition purchase order also. If you want to use the different people to approve the requisitions purchase orders, accordingly you can create the different approved groups and you can use for testing or reality. Now we'll go and check the PO status. This user will get the notification also as approved. This document is approved. So go to purchase orders. The PO number is 1009. Go to manage orders. Click on search. Your status is open. Okay. So minimum will have maybe 2 more sessions if required. Max, I guess 2 more sessions required to complete these approvals to understand thoroughly. We'll work on this. Okay, we tested how to approve the requisitions and purchase orders automatically, and by using the approval group, how you can send the notifications to approve based on the condition. There are different conditions, and within one rule you can have a multiple condition, or based on the document type also you can set whether the rule should be applicable only for standard purchase order or the agreement, and all these specifications we can give. In the upcoming sessions we'll discuss. Maybe in the next sessions we'll discuss if we can complete approvals next session, okay, or else we'll discuss in the further sessions also. Hope we may require 2 more sessions to cover these approvals, whatever the different type of approvals we have. So any questions on today's session, please?